We are here. We's here.
Who's here to talk that talk.
Oh, to walk that walk?
And be about it.
Ah.
We're teaching the community how to get it together,
How to get it together.
leading by example.
702 style.
Okay, all day, every day.
We just gonna go back and forth. Yes.
That's how you do it. Pong, pong. It's like volleyball.
I love it.
All right, so this is Queen. This is Dynasty Healing co-star.
Queen Ali in,
Okay.
in the area.
And then you introduce.
So today, with our show that we have on this beautiful Sunday evening, we have Demetrius with us today. Applause, applause, applause.
Appreciate the love. How you all doing?
Glad to have you. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
So I know that you have a super wonderful thing to share with us on the perspective of fathers
Yes.
and how it feels not to be with the children 24/7.
Gotcha.
So if you can just open up and share with us what that is, what that experience is like, and blah blah blah.
So it started for me. I got married straight out of college over 10 years ago, and so pretty much was just doing the traditional path of successful life. You know, graduate from high school, graduate from college, find that girl. You know, and then she's the love of your life, and then you get married. And then get married, and then after that, you know, then comes, you know, the kids. Well, only one, but then a year after our son's birth, you know, shortly after, we got a divorce, and so through that divorce, you know, as many families who are listening can relate, you know, when children are involved, you know, sometimes it can get very heated and emotional, and very tense, you know.
So how did you handle that?
I handled the best way that I knew how.
Okay.
You know, in Georgia, you know, it definitely favors, you know, mothers, you know, over fathers as far as, you know, when it comes to custody, you know, things like that, unless there's an extreme scenario in which it can be proven, you know, that the mother cannot mentally be able to care for the child, you know. And then you have those situations where it will revert to the father being the primary custodial parent. But that wasn't the
Do
case.
you agree with that though?
Oh, no, I totally disagree with that. But I think part of it also plays in just, you know, those two people, you know, that husband and wife, you know, those two spouses, as far as them really taking the power from the court and saying, hey, this is how we're going to do things, and telling their lawyers, hey, this is what we want, period, you know, and then they have to draw it up, you know, because that's what you're paying them for, you know. But a lot of times, you know, especially if you're young, you don't have that knowledge, you don't have that confidence, you know, to say, hey, this is what I want, you know, make it happen. So no, I don't like how it is, but you know, I know from experience that I've met people, you know, in which they were amicable, you know, and where they was able just to sit down themselves and say, hey, this is what we're going to, you know, we're going to do joint custody, you know, you get 1 week, I get 1 week, you know, and we alternate, you know, back and forth, you know, and things are fine. Now they still have to draw up papers, you know, just to make everything official and legal as far as them, you know, being separated or being divorced. But that was not the case with, you know, with us.
Okay.
And so, you know, with that, you know, it's really, you know, I kind of relate it to back in slave times.
Okay.
You know, when the slaves were brought over, and then they were about to be auctioned off. You know, there's that quick snatching away. You know, and back then, you know, it was, you know, the first person that was snatched away from the family was the black man. You know, because that's where the perceived power was.
Okay.
You know, and so when you did that, over time, you know, we got used to that, and so the black community has gotten accustomed because of those ways that has been rooted back in slavery, you know, where the black family is used to not having the black man, you know. And so it's, even to this day, it's still that journey of the black man coming back and being acclimated as being part of the true definition of a black family, you know, or just a family, you know. And so we have, so for me, you know, with us having a son, you know, as a father, that's, you know, it's very special, you know, because this is the person that carries on your legacy, you know, that carries on your last name, you know, traditionally speaking, you know. And so to know that you don't have or you don't get to spend as much time as you would like to invest in your legacy, you know, and to really, you know, foster that and cultivate that the way you want to, and kind of just like oversee, you know, that as much, you know, it's a downer, you know. It's definitely upsetting, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same sense, I still understand that there is a need for a child to have their mother and their father present in their life.
It's a
Present,
balance.
yeah. It's healthy for that child, you know. And I think in the end, that's what we have to get back to the focus when we have those kind of dynamics, you know, with co-parenting. Like, it has to be about the child. Like, we have to get over ourselves, you know, so that way we can get to our child, you know. And it's not where we should never put the child in a situation where the child has to feel that they have to choose, you know. I think about there's a story, and this is from just my faith as far as Christianity. There's a story in the Bible where it talks about there's this baby, and there's two mothers, and both of them are saying, no, this child is mine, you know. And then so they're going before I think the king or the judge, you know, and so both of them are trying to, you know, just, you know, yelling or whatever, you know. And then so judge is like, well, fine, since y'all can't decide, cut the baby in half.
I think that was King David, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so the king said, cut the baby in half. And then the one woman that said, no, don't do that. That was the indicator that was the true mother, because the other person was so hooked on them getting their piece, you know, of their child, as if their child is a piece of property, you know. That's another thing we have to get away from, is, you know, that, and I think that's also comes from slave, you know,
that Willie Lynch theory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
You know,
of that is embedded from there.
exactly. You know, and I'm just not thinking about that too. It's like we came over here treated and labeled as property, you know, and that included our children, you know. And so now that we are free, quote unquote free, you know, we are still doing the same things that we broke away from.
Because we're living in a free prison
Yes.
to this day.
Yes.
If we don't pay attention to nothing else, that's exactly what it is. And the same principles of that Willie Lynch teaching still applies today. The only thing is we don't have any slaves slave masters that's overpowering us, but it's all in the mental.
It's all in the mind. And since you said that, it's like the slave master never left because it's in our mind.
Correct.
You know.
Yeah.
But until we acknowledge that and confront it and like rebuke it and get rid of it, you know, wean ourselves and purge ourselves from it, you know, then we can actually really be, you know, free, you know.
Right.
So, you know, like I was saying, we're in these dynamics where we treat children, you know, like a piece of property. You know, we allow the courts, you know, to treat children like a piece of property. You know, even though on paper, you know, they do not want the child to be treated like a piece of property, and they always say we do things in the best interest of the child. You know, but the child is still being treated like a piece of property.
Absolutely.
You know, and so from there, you know, it's. I definitely hated feeling that way, you know, that our son was treated, you know, like a piece of property, you know. And I think I believe that, you know, children are a piece of us, you know, and they can never leave us, you know. And no, we can't spend every waking moment with them, you know, even when they become adults and teenagers, you know. But that which we can spend time with, let's spend that time, So it took me some time to get to that point of the time that I do get with him. Let me make the most of it, let me make it quality, So it's not necessarily about quantity, even though quantity does have its place, especially when we're talking about, kids and their first, from birth to 5, those are considered the impressionable years, in which they really emotionally get attached to, those that are closest to them, as far as just having a sense of belonging, feeling loved, and so it was important to me that I try to spend as much time with him, because I knew that, and even just from my understanding being in the profession of working with kids, I knew the impact that can have on children when you don't have a father that is present, spending time with that child, and having a mother present, spending time with that child, So
let me interrupt real quick because, just thinking of the community collectively, like there's a small rarity of guys that think about parenting such as the way that you explained. What does your foundation look like that made you look at parenting that way? Did you have your father, your grandfather, uncles? Did you have that balance? Did you not have that balance because of the Willie Lynch theory and always longed for it? Like, where did you get that foundation so that you can also implement that in your children?
Right. So for me, I would say it's twofold. So my parents are married. They've been married over, I think it's 30 years. They're old now. So when they hear this, they're gonna fuss at me. But but both of them were in the Army. And so my mother, she did 6 years, and then she got out. Because being in the Army, you have different assignments. So ultimately in the end, it's going to end up happening where both are going to be in 2 separate assignments in 2 separate areas of the U.S. or the world. And then you have you got to figure out what you're going to do with the child. So my mom, she decided to go ahead and just get out of the Army, and kind of just be that mainstay at home. And then my dad, he ended up continuing on to do to serve 27 years. Master Sergeant. And so even though he had assignments, in which as a family we traveled, wherever he was stationed at, that's where we lived at, but even still, he still had to, go to different places. So he was not always necessarily physically there, but to know that he wasn't going anywhere, I think that also helped emotionally, mentally for me, and also for my mom as well,
So you had that balance,
right? So I had that, but then also at the same time, I think from just my Christian upbringing and just me understanding who God is, and the definition of God in the Bible as far as him being a heavenly Father, and always being there and always being present, and you can always, if you need him, you can just pray to him, talk to him, and he's there,
so you allowed God to be your lead. In return, you're able to lead your household at that point.
Yes. Yes. So definitely from there, my definition of God as a heavenly Father and who he is and how I've experienced him as well. Not just what I was taught, but just how I've experienced him. That also led me to really make up my mind that I have to be involved in my son's life, because I read something, I think it's this book that I read called the Dad Factor, and one thing that I walked away from it was they were talking about how dads represent God to their children, since, we say God is a heavenly Father, then you have an earthly father, but it's hard for kids to, for those who are of the Christian faith, it's hard for them to really grasp that concept of your heavenly Father will always be there for you when your earthly father is nowhere in sight.
Like, what are you talking about?
Right,
what?
Right. Or he only comes, on Christmas, Mother's Day, not even Mother's Day, but Christmas, Father's Day,
holidays
and holidays. Yeah, exactly, the holidays. So it's really hard to really see those as mirroring each other as far as fatherhood. So I just wanted to make a point that I can represent God as much as possible to my son,
Okay.
and still letting him know, hey, I'm not perfect, but I look to God as who He is to me to help me to know who I am to be to you,
Because you're made in His image.
Right. I'm made in His image, and so that has helped me out a lot, because for me, teaching him is more important for me to show him the Bible than just sit down and like read the Bible and teach the Bible. And no, we still do that. That has its place, but it has more of an impact and it sticks more when you are showing, by example.
It says that we are not here to teach; we are here to lead by example.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the best teacher.
Yes, exactly. So that has definitely it has definitely caused me to make some sacrifices. Looking back, some career sacrifices. Because it ended up that after the divorce, that she moved to a different state, and then about a year later, I decided to move, to that state, because I was like, I am not about to be a different state away from my son. For me, in my mind, it was just the worst case scenario of something. If something was to happen to him, it's going to take me hours to get to him.
What is that? What is that feeling? Because obviously for females, we feel one way. Males are feel. So we can never really understand it completely.
Right.
We can have an idea. So what is that feeling like to know, oh my God, like I'm not going to be able to spend, put my child to bed tonight and wake up to him. I got to wait 7 days before I get my turn, and then it's almost like I gotta relearn them again, and then send them back and do it all over again. Like, what is that emotion?
Emotionally, it's for me, it's mind wracking. Because like you said, you're having to kind of do things all over again, because you just want to make sure, especially with them being so young, they have no sense of time. But we have a great sense of time, So, you could spend 30 minutes with them and they'll think it's been like you've been with them forever, all day, But I think for us, we're so wrapped on it, we're like, if I don't do that, if I don't spend time, they're not going to know who I am. They're going to forget about me, kind of thing, And yes, that can happen if you're not consistent. I'll say that,
Okay.
So I'll say this to fathers that are out there, whatever schedule that you do currently have, one, make sure that you're doing your due diligence, stick to the schedule, and then, hopefully from that, I believe, through prayer and just through practice, that, things can loosen up, between the dynamics of you and your ex, in which you all can, just talk things out. Like, okay, yeah, it doesn't have to be, right. I have to, you have to drop them off right at 7:00, kind of thing. Just have some leniency, because in the end we're talking about a child. We're not talking about a business transaction, that has to make its deposit and withdrawal, at a set time,
Right.
And so.
And that's kind of like my hopes for this particular episode, right? Is for you guys to be able to, represent the males in that kind of situation and kind of get to the females, like, apart from the emotional break between you and the spouse for whatever reason, don't let the ego take over and block what's important, because it's more than the child, it's the legacy, it's like a plant almost. Like, it's an imbalance if you're the only one pouring into that child and he doesn't get that balance.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I like what you said about the legacy thing, because I think the recent generations of young men do not have a sense of that, of what legacy is. And what it means and the impact that can have on you and the generations to come and the community in which you live in, And so therefore, we have this lackadaisical mindset that, whatever, if she don't want me to see him, I don't care, kind of thing. And we get accustomed to that, And so when, and I believe that's a spirit, and that feeds off, And so when when you exude that spirit, you know, you're going to get what you give. You know, then that's your ex. You know, she's gonna be like, well, I don't care either. You know, and then the only person that really gets hurt in the end is the child. You know, and so now we get back to being selfish, where we're focusing on I don't care and I don't care. You know, but does the child care? Or even if you feel that the child's not going to care because they're so young, so you're taking advantage of their ignorance. You know, that asking yourself the question, you know, is it going to matter later on?
It does.
You
and
know?
I would say it does, because I was that mom before. I was like, you know what? I'm going to fill in the gaps where he left off, right? I don't care. As long as you stay over there, at least I can go ahead and be the only one to feed his mind so that he'll be completely perfect.
Right.
I can't teach him how to be a man, but I'll show him what it should be for a female. So he's a gentleman and all of that stuff. And I never considered the fact that he may have a longing for this piece of him that he don't understand, that I could not explain to him, right? And then once he gets around his father, it's like an immediate magnet. Oh, the relation is there, and now he feels like, oh, I'm complete. And I'm like, well, I've been here all this time. What are you talking about? But again, it takes that balance, you know. And I had my parents growing up, so I couldn't understand what it was for him not to have him around.
Right.
You know, so it does matter in the long run. It is a bigger picture, and you don't want to wait till the child is grown and then resent you.
And I'm glad you said that about the resentment, because, you know, I believe there's some parents that believe that they can get away with so much and their child is not going to find out. But the truth of the matter is, whatever is done in the darkness is going to come out. It's always going to come out to light one way or another, you know. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from some other relative that said, well, you know, growing up, you know, your mama didn't, you know, do this, or did you know growing up your daddy didn't do this and he wasn't there for that, you know. It could be easily as the child asks questions, because as they grow, they're going to ask questions.
A lot of questions.
They're going to ask a lot of questions because they are still trying to make sense of life. They're still trying to make sense of their identity. They're, you know, and this is you know, I know this is Mental Health Awareness Month. You know, they are trying to, you know, get their mind together. You know, and they should be able to depend on their mother and their father to help them get their mind together. Right. You know, and make sure that their mind is developed, you know, properly.
Because
you know,
that's what a parent is. It's not just to feed them and clothe them. You are responsible for training their mind.
Yes.
You know, you may send them to school, but that's not their sole purpose of going. They're supposed to learn what, you know, the free prison wants them to know. Right. But ultimately, their foundation, their culture, their upbringing, the overall molding of the child comes from the home. Exactly. And if you don't got it together, then that's what you're implanting in the child.
Yep. Because I truly believe it's definitely part of my philosophy that parents are the child's first teacher. Yep. Not who I send them to school to. Yep. I have that sense of knowing something ain't right with my child, you know, or this is how my child can learn this better, or this is what they need, you know, or this is what they want, or this is what they're really trying to say, you know. And it's for that reason why the co-parenting relationship has to get to a point of being healthy, you know, because each of us have blind spots. And it's not a flaw, you know. It's just how it's just how we're made, you know. We just have gaps. The analogy I think of is like our fingers, you know. It's like the reason why we have these gaps in between is because if we put them together, it fills in, you know. And so without thinking all touchy feely, but we need each other, you know. Like you know. And I've really never said this out loud, so I'm saying this, you know, but it's like you know, for my son, I need his mom to be there. You know what I'm saying? And I hope, you know, I believe I know. She'll say the same thing, you know, that, you know, I need to be there. You know, I need to be present, you know what I'm saying? Because we both know the impact if we are absent. Right. Because we know our child. Right. You know. And so we have to get to that. We have to get to that. We have to get to that place, you know. And I'll label it. It really is a mental health, you know, journey. You know, because it's all in the mind.
And it's a practice of self-control, because if you lead with emotion, you're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are able to control thyself, stay true to thyself,
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, I know I feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the situation. Here's the children.
Right.
What's in the best interest of the children? Is my pride and my ego overstepping my proper decision, because it's not going to be nice, right?
Right.
Everybody wants to win, right? But in a true conversation, if your ego and my ego that's an argument.
Right.
And with an argument, nothing gets done.
Right.
Nobody wins. You just get madder,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody want to hurt. And,
Yep.
and it gets nowhere.
Hurt people
right?
hurt people.
Exactly. So with that self-control of emotion and looking at the bigger picture, then it's very, very possible to make the right choices for the child.
Yeah, I like what you said about the whole about the win-win, because I think what happened is that when two people are together, they have developed or they've defined what winning is.
Mm-hmm.
So when they break up, they no longer hold on to that definition of what winning is, because they made that definition of winning with that person. So holding on to that definition makes it feel like I'm still holding on to a piece of that person that I just let go.
Right. Right.
So now I have to redefine winning on my own without the other person. The other person has to redefine winning on their own without the other person. And so there's never no communication between those two parties as to, okay, this is how I define winning, this is how I define winning. And so what ends up happening is we're in this battle of winning the new definition of what we said winning is,
And now y'all farther apart.
Right.
Because it's not in the one accord.
Right. And more so, it's not even just that we're farther apart, but now the child is being stretched further apart. That's what it really ends up happening. Because now, the child's like, oh, do I go this way? Do I go this way?
Right.
Do I side with this parent? Do I side with this
Right.
parent?
Right.
Who's right, who's wrong,
Right.
And, psychologically that it really has detrimental effects, on the kids when you put them in those compromising positions,
It really does.
when you feel that you have to communicate to the other person through the child, that causes detrimental effects, because it makes them feel that, it already tells the child that we can't talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And they feel like, oh my God, I don't want to hurt this one's feelings. I don't want to hurt this one's feelings.
Right.
Who do I pick? What do I decide? Who do I choose?
Exactly.
And they shouldn't have to
Right.
do that at
Yeah.
all.
And so it's actually proven, because I took a parenting course, and I would actually recommend people to check it out. I think it's called courseforparenting.com. I think the lowest cost for it is like $25, but it and it's on page. You can literally do it on your phone. They'll give you a certificate, and I think a bunch of courts across the U.S. honor it. But in it they were talking about as far as like the psychological effects is when parents can't communicate, without having the child involved, or when they're talking about the other parent around the child, it can cause depression, can cause suicidal thoughts, because they're internalizing that, because they're looking at this piece of them, which it could be is the mom, and this piece of them, which is the dad, that are bumping heads, and so they're internalizing that like, this is me.
Right. Like, did I do it?
Right.
Am I the wrong one?
Right. Did I do it? But also at the same time, like, what part of me is wrong?
Right.
So every day they look at themselves, trying to find their identity all over again, because it's like they're the puzzle. It's like they're the puzzle, but really, the parents aren't communicating each other. The parents aren't communicating effectively to help the child piece themselves together.
Right.
It's like the Humpty Dumpty, had a great fall kind of, situation. And
so so knowing this, what is your method that you practice with your son to make sure that, hey, listen, even though this is the situation, here's where I am with it, or here's how you should look at it, or what method do you practice with your child with in coping with that?
Coping with
the arrangements that you guys have.
Well, because it's been so long, because we got divorced, after when he was like an infant,
Okay.
so he's always been used to the exchange.
Okay.
It's never been on my end. It's never been like, hey, this is what it is. This is how it's going to be. I could imagine like because he spends more time with her. I can imagine that she has to have those conversations. Because over time, the parenting schedule has changed. And so now, currently, like I have more time with him. So I'm sure a conversation that had to be had. Between him and his mom, about that for him to, understand. And what I can say is, from seeing those changes, it's never been nothing where there's, for me, from my viewpoint, it's never been no dissension between me and my son, as far as like the new parenting. And for me, the reason I really haven't just brought it up like, hey son, like I know that, I'm going to be spending more time with you and, kind of thing. And the reason why I've never just had an explicit conversation about that is because I just don't want to give that energy.
Okay.
You
just want to let it flow.
Yeah, I just want to let it flow, and I want the focus to be on the time that we have. And so now it's for us, I like the moments when he tells me, he's like, Dad, when I'm with you, that's when I get my good sleep, because because when he's with me, because the time that I have to go to work, and he was digital this year, he was able to. When he's with me, he stays home, at my house, and so he just wakes up, when it's time for class. So he gets to sleep a little longer, but when he's with his mom, he has to wake up early because she has to be at work much earlier,
Okay.
So, he's told me, he's like, Dad, I get this, when I'm with you, this is when I get my good sleep, So I feel good about that, because that tells me is that, he is seeing the benefits, of spending time with his dad, but also at the same time, it's just like, I can see it when he starts reaching out to me more, and it's not just me calling him, or me texting him, he's initiating calling, just FaceTime, like, hey, I'm like, what's up? And he's like, nothing, just calling you, see what you're doing, kind of thing,
Yeah.
I like those little things like that,
Those matter.
Yeah, those matter a lot, and so that lets me know that that he's reaping the benefits, of increased time, with his father, and he's understanding, and like I said, I just make sure that the time that I have with him, I'm instilling principles of legacy, to him, I'm letting him know what your first name means, what your middle name means, what your last name means, and this is how you should carry yourself, big, because of what your first name means, what your middle name means, and what your last name means, and what our family name means, and he'd be like, Dad, nobody else in the family says that. I don't care. This is what I say.
Right.
This is the new standard. And so I said, he was like, Dad, when I have a kid, I'm not gonna. I said, okay. And he can say that now.
Yeah.
But after when he gets older, he may be like, what? My dad taught me this.
I understand it now.
And I understand it now. And I know because when I first had him, when he was first born, it was at that moment that I understood everything that my dad did, that I was bucking heads with him about, everything, and it all made sense to me,
Right.
and for me it was like, oh my God, I just need to apologize to my dad, like, because I thought he was the worst, like I wanted to run away, and I just wanted the whole new family, and just be done,
But now you understand.
Now I understand. Now I understand because as a parent, I believe every parent feels this, but if not, to each his own. But I believe when you have a child, that is the only time when you experience love at first sight, because you don't. Yes, you don't know anything about them, but the fact that that they came from you.
Yeah.
and you have been given the unique privilege and responsibility to really cultivate this, and grow this up, it's love at first sight. Is nothing like loving a person, that is not related to you, or somebody that you're dating or whatever. Is nothing like that, And I think, actually, I'm not gonna say I think, I know it's because that mindset of this is love at first sight. This is my love at first sight. It's hard for that love to be out of sight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the more that I see my love, which is my son, the better that I feel. Yeah. And so I can imagine, mothers feel that same way, because you've been carrying around this life that you can't see but you feel for 9 months. You know what I'm saying? So you've been at love with it, in the sense without the pains and all that stuff and sleepless nights and all that stuff like that. But you've already been in love already, because it's already been attached to you as well, So I get it emotionally, when you go through divorce, or separation if you're not married, and I get that there's that emotional, snatching away, so I mean,
and I think in society that's why it's so easy, to say, oh well, the mom is going through it because she carried the baby, she breastfed, she this, she that, and it's a harder connection for the father. But like you said, it's like, I made this. This is mine, So there's a whole emotion that we don't discuss on the father's end, and like you said earlier, it can be because of the conditioning of that Willie Lynch case. Of the man was ripped out of the home because quite naturally they knew the mom wouldn't be able to control the child once they become older, and then next thing you know, you got to call the cops.
Right.
And then it funds the system, and we just need to reverse that and get away from that kind of situation.
Can I interject?
Absolutely.
Woo! Lord, listen, I'm having vibrations over here. Listen, Demetrius, it's a pleasure to meet you. You are very powerful.
Thank you.
You said a mouthful and a half. You like double me. Lord, have mercy. Demetrius. It's good to know you. I had some questions. I don't want to pass because we healing together, we learning together.
Yes.
When it comes to you said a point I wanted to touch on. When it comes to your son having a favor when he has more time to be with you, how does the mom feel? I have multiple questions about that because I'm going through the same thing. How does the mom feel about? Does she know that he enjoys that time with you?
I don't know how she. I've never had an explicit conversation do you know your son said that he did a good job. But I think we're at a point now where I can say that to her, in a joking manner, even though there's truth to it, I think we're at that point where we can talk about that,
Okay.
And for me, it's not. I don't get wrapped up around knowing exactly how she feels about the increased time that I have with him, because I think in the end it's not about how I feel, it's not about how she feels,
about how he feels.
It's about how he feels, and the fruit of how he's feeling, how his social and emotional development.
I think that's important, the emotional part of it, that the child feels. And I'm in a situation like that. With that being said, since with COVID and the kids being more home, how does that your feelings expressed with your father and your relationship with your father, how does that make you feel that is like a cycle being broken of, oh, my son feel this way towards me, but my my son that I have, we have a good relationship together, and we are bonding and we connecting. Would you say since COVID that parents one parent might have more time than the other in that sense, or it changes the dynamics of the child being out of school and being home with somebody more? Can you touch that?
I think and I hope that COVID has taught families this, that family matters. Just very much just like the old school show, Family Matters. It really does. The time that you spend with your family, it matters. And it also, I hope that COVID teaches us that the reason that family matters is because in the end, family is all you got. Regardless if your mom and dad are together, they're your family, and that's all you got in the end. Because I mean, it's all you have in the end. And so there has to be a sense of expectancy. That I know this is all that I got. We got. And we get from we all that we got to this is all that I want. This is all that I need. And I think COVID has taught a lot of us that. The things that the superficial things that we thought that were necessary and essential for life, we found out this past year, it really wasn't.
Means nothing.
It
and
means
honestly,
nothing.
It takes a village to raise a child, because even though you have the parents, I know growing up, I would hear something from my mom or my dad, and I'd be like, yeah, all right, whatever. But if my aunt told me, it was something different. It hit different. If my uncle told me, it hit different.
Yeah.
Or if the neighbor, if he, he might be out there ranting and raving, but it hit different. And it really take that village to get that message. Even if we all three said the same thing, out of that child, he's going to take it from one of us. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But as long as the message was implemented, it didn't matter where it came from.
Exactly.
So we need that village back.
Yeah, we definitely need the village back, because that village was the family.
Yeah.
The family was the village. I used to tell my son, that growing up, when it came to my friends, the only way that I could become friends with them is if my parents were friends with their parents. My parents had to know who they were, because that's a reflection of what's being taught to those friends that your child is hanging around with.
Right. And that was important.
And nowadays, we don't know who our kids' friends are.
I don't know. I'm super overprotective. I was like, I gotta.
I mean, the recent generation. I'll say the recent generations of parenting. They don't know who they don't know who their friends. They don't know who their children's friends are. They don't know who their friends. They don't know who their friends' parents are. They don't know what they believe. They don't know what they like, what they dislike, what they support. What political party they don't know those things. And those things are important, because in the end, when your child comes back home and they start spewing out stuff that you didn't teach them, then you have that shit, like where you get that from? Who taught you that? Because I didn't teach you that.
Right.
With that being said, I had a situation with my daughter. So she got sick, and I sent her to my family, because I'm a single mom out here. I don't have no nannies like that. The situation where they cutting back hours in multiple states, and they're not accepting any part-time children to come in part-time. They want them to be there full-time, and they cutting back the hours for the daycares and stuff like that.
Right.
So I sent her where she was getting virus sick and testing, and nothing ain't coming. I said, no, you need to go somewhere where you have support and you could heal. So I sent her, and just 2 weeks ago, we had a situation where my cousin had to leave, because you were in the house with the child all the time from that 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock hour all the way to 4:30. That's a lot of time staring at this computer this child has to do, and some of them have attention problems and they get distracted. So she sent her to her godmother, and the godmother has a granddaughter that's 12. And now she's interacting with her. I said, well, you got to take time from this computer. You can't be standing at the computer and then talking to her after hours. That's not what we going to do.
Right.
And when I found out that the girl is talking to boys and introducing my daughter to it, I told her, "For you better step up." I said, "No, we ain't gonna have that kind of business going on here. You gotta step up." So he shut down. He went talked to my cousin. He tell her not to have it. So he pulled her out and sent her to her aunt. And I was like, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're not going to introduce my child to no boys. And I'm super protective. When it's me and her around, it's me and her. I don't have her going to anybody. I need to know what's going on with her. So I had to shut that down because we're not going to have her. If anybody going to talk to her about the birds and the bees and this and that and the other, it's going to be me.
And honestly, that should have been I feel like when it's those kind of conversations, then it's like, okay, let's talk mutual as the parents and say, well, how are we going to introduce this topic to the child? Because there, again, honestly, is two versions to it.
Right.
You know, because I remember when my son wanted to know about the birds and the bees, and I'm like, well, I don't know how I feel for guys, but. And all I could relate, honestly, don't laugh at me, was this, what was the movie? I think it was American Pie. When they had the pie. I was like, well, I could get you an apple pie and you could go to the bathroom and figure it out. Like, I don't know. But just be honest with me. We here with it, So, but I would have loved for me to be able to say, well, go ask your dad about that. You know what I mean? Because I can't explain that kind of thing for a guy.
Right,
really.
right.
So.
Yeah, for me, so me and my ex, we really haven't strategically sat down or got on the phone and said, hey, at this age, we need to start talking to him about, this, that, and the other, who's going to talk about it first or whatever. I just think, just based on our, during our time with him, whatever experiences happened during that time, then we just talk about it, and then he'll say, he was like, oh yeah, my mom was, he'll like, if I say something, he was like, you sound like my mom, she said that, or I'm sure he says the same thing to her, the dad always says that, kind of thing, and so I'll say, I'll say sometimes, I was like, yeah, she's right, because once again, he's trying to develop meaning, of life and what is right, kind of thing. So, I mean, yes, you can have that, that's one way of communicating, just, y'all actually sit down and say, okay, hey, we're going to talk about this, but sometimes it just doesn't work like that way, because of just the relationship, availability, kind of thing, so, but just the way that we work, we just, just when it happens, we talk about it, and then we're, I'm at the point, where if we're talking about something, then if I feel that that his mom needs to know about it, and I was like, does your mom know about it? He was like, no. And I'm like, oh, well, she needs to know about it. I said, I'm going to go ahead and call her right now, because I want him to know that we're together on this, because I don't want him to feel or sense that there's a gap, even though we're not together, kind of thing, but we just need to be solid, this is our stance, this is the standard, and there's no wavering from that, kind of thing, so
unity brings strength, even though you're not together in the same household.
It's a different type of unity, but it is,
So this topic has been super amazing. We got the perspective of moms. We got the perspective of dads. And I figured, what would it be like if we can fast forward from a child who's been through that situation and able to give their perspective. So we have Steve here. Welcome in, Steve.
Welcome.
Hello.
What's up, Steve?
So quite naturally, you was listening to somewhat of the conversation, and just share a little bit about your experience with having both parents or having one parent, or just what was your situation like?
Okay. I had both of my parents when I was in elementary school, and then they broke up, so my mom had full custody.
Okay.
So I visited my dad in the summers.
Okay. What was that like for you? Just overall, and thank you for being open about anything,
definitely.
Right? And just being completely vulnerable about the whole situation. But I think it's just very important that we actually really touch those emotions so that it can help the other people in the same situation going through that and saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling. You're not alone, but it's also relatable and we can get out of this type of situation. So what was that experience like for you?
It was a lot to adjust to as a young kid. And then when your parents see other people, you have to get used to those other people. And you try to remember that your parents are still your parents. You can't call anyone else your mom or your dad because that'll make you feel uncomfortable. And you have to get used to that. Then you have to get used to someone else who's not your parent acting like your parent because they're not your parent. And then if you don't like it, then you might react a certain way that might be considered disrespectful. And your parent will be like, why did you react that way? And then you'll say, because they're not my parent, you are. And then you'll ask where your other parent is. So I feel like you just have to talk to both your parents, let them know that you still view them as your only parent and that no one else can replace them.
So that also, it sounds like anger is a flare up in that situation, right? Especially when somebody else trying to be your daddy or whatever, and it's like, wait, what? No, it's not gonna happen. So that's something that, as a parent, honestly, we never even think about. It's more like, you're the child, be quiet, go sit down somewhere, because we doing grown up stuff, and it's a real thing for you, right?
Yes, it is.
So how did you deal with it, like when just going to daddy's house now?
I always spoke to my mother every day when I visited my dad. I always called her once or twice a day.
Really? So you didn't, what was that, because you felt awkward, or what was that like?
That was because she was a very overprotective mother and she wanted to make sure I was okay.
Okay, that's cute. So how is that relationship now with that? Okay, you made your phone call and your check-in went great. Now it's just you and daddy for the summer.
That was cool. I always liked chilling with my dad. And he was a truck driver, so I used to go on truck rides with him across different states.
That's good.
You know, and it was just me and him, so it was like bonding time for me.
Okay. So you feel like you still got the balance with the situation that, you know, mom's over here, dad's over here. Do you still feel like you got what you needed from both parents? Did you wish that it was a different way, or like what? How do you feel like for your overall where you are now? Because you're how old?
I'm 21.
21. So how do you feel like your foundation was with that kind of arrangement?
I feel like my mother did a really good job for being a single parent.
Okay.
So I think she did her part on that.
And your dad?
I do wish that I spent more time with him.
Okay.
He was in a different state, so I never always got time to spend with him.
Okay.
So I do wish that I saw him more. That would, especially when I got older and I got into sports, you know, and things that are typically.
You want to be have him at the game that you're playing with, or whatever Harvey you was doing, right?
Yeah, like I had basketball games, you know. I have my dad. I had him at a couple of basketball games, but I wish he was there at more of them.
Okay.
And then I have footage of it, so you know he'd give me advice and things like that. And I wish I had more of that.
Okay. So, because I guess as a male child, that's really more important, right?
To me, it is, yes.
Why so?
Why so? I guess as you get older, since my dad is a man and I'm becoming a man, it's important to learn from him. You know, and me personally, I don't want to learn from anyone else other than my parents. So if it's a man, I want it to be him over anyone else.
And that's super important, and that's real.
It's
You
natural.
know, it's real. And like I said, I learned that later on through my son. You know, I didn't realize that he was lacking that, because I just felt like I got it. You know, he's fine, he's happy, he's fed, he know how to order at a restaurant, he's straight. But I didn't realize the challenges that a male goes through. You know, in my head, he still was 10. And I didn't realize that teenager years is a transition. I didn't realize that transition from 17 to adult is a transition.
Right.
And that's why I felt like it was necessary to get this message across, because not to say he's very masculine. I think I did a good job. You know what I'm saying? Or he's naturally involved into.
Right.
But I've come across, just as a woman dating, I can tell there's a lot of guys out here that needed that male perspective in their life.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. Whew, Lord.
It's too many.
Yeah.
Too many.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, where your uncle at? If your daddy wasn't there, where your uncle at?
Yeah.
But it's easy to point blame when us women, we be like, stay away.
Yeah, and I think naturally, it's natural for boys to long for that from that touch, of care from their father, for identity purposes, and I think it's natural for girls, since that touch, from their moms, as far as their identity as a woman. And I think it really takes growth from the father and the mother to get to that point where they can say, I don't got it all. I don't have it all together. I don't know everything, and since I don't know everything, like, hey, I need you to help out with this, kind of thing. And that really takes maturity, but if you're dealing with ego and pride and you still have that slave mentality that this child is a piece of property, then it's gonna be harder to let that thing go, and realizing that this thing is a human being,
Right.
that we're talking about, so yeah.
I have.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, because you're all queen. I have to say, Demetrius, it's glad to have you here today. When we was conversing about us coming to the show, I have to say that you fill in that gap really good.
Thank you.
I have to say, being one of the guys I have met and be able to explain and express all areas from where the man comes from,
Right.
You have represented the Atlanta community very well.
Hey, that's what's up.
Were you born and
Hey,
born and raised here, or you been here sometime?
I have been. I moved to Atlanta area probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
I moved down to the South from Jersey.
Okay.
Okay. Not born and bred from Jersey, but
Okay.
middle school and like half of high school was up there. So like understand from being in middle school, like that's how your personality and who you are really
Right.
kind of.
So how long have you been in the South?
I have been in the South since 2000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's long enough.
Yeah.
You are Southerner.
Right.
But hold on, but let me.
You finna go to the store at this point.
I'll tell you my jersey, and my mom's from Philly, so that side will come out of me.
Right,
if I get
right.
mad, if I get
Can't
real
erase
passionate about
that.
something, my vowels will change and all that. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
see, I just did it right there.
I
You know what
got
I'm saying? So
I think there is no misrepresentation from wherever you're from. You have represented the men today very well.
Thank
you have
you.
said a
Thank
lot.
you.
What age group are you representing? I have to say,
you said what group?
age group. What age group are you?
Oh, what age? Now
What-
she asking for my.
Yeah,
Now she's
I
asking
didn't
for
say
my
the age. The age group, because Steve is rather young, so I
Gotcha.
need to know like what
Gotcha.
do you represent?
I kind of almost felt like this is like an undercover call for like all the single women that are listening for this.
no.
Are you single?
Like how old is he?
No,
Our minds
like I
wanna
just need to
know.
know.
I'm
you
your
know?
He's a
sister.
good
You
daddy.
got a new sister,
So,
okay?
Gotcha.
My father is from the East Coast. You are it. Go
Gotcha.
ahead.
Gotcha. Well, I am a proud 37 years old.
Woo!
Yeah.
We the same age.
Yes.
I got a brother today.
Yes.
Right.
I've been told I look younger, but
Yeah.
and I take that. But I've been told that I look older too. It all depends,
No, you
What
look
I change
good for
it.
your
Thank
age.
you, thank
That's
you. You know,
it.
black don't
Yeah.
crack.
At all.
At all. You know what I'm saying? So,
So,
But-
but before that, I wanted to just say, we just talked about the relationship between the father and the sons, but fathers and daughters is super important too, because
true.
that's the first template of the kind of guy they're gonna choose in their life.
yeah, it's interesting you said it because I've heard it said that it's very subconscious that girls will end up marrying a guy that's like their father, and boys will end up marrying a woman that's like their mother, subconsciously.
Yeah.
Unless there's been like drastic,
Where they say, I don't want nothing like it.
nothing like
Yeah.
it, and even in those times, like when they don't want to, they end up and end up finding how much that their person that they're with is like their mom or like their dad, but like subconsciously, that they end up, reverting to that,
Yeah.
So which for that reason, it's all the more reason why that identity development is so important for the mother and the father to be present, kind of thing. Because if they never get that care from that father or from that mother, they're still searching for it.
Yeah. So what do you recommend to the community out there? So let's say their parents are not exactly there yet, right? Mentally, I don't want to stereotypical, but let's say they have a Pookie and Ray Ray in them, right?
Baby boy.
You know what I'm saying? But the child is very wise for their age, because there's a lot that is like, I know this is not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a certain way, but this is what I have. Like, what do you recommend for both the parents in terms of hearing this? Like, what recommendations would you tell them? And for the children, so someone who may not have had their father or may not have had their mother in their life, but always longed for that.
Right. Well, for the parents, I think it starts off with they have to change their circle. Like we're all product of our environment. Our circle of influence. People that we surround ourselves with. People that we grow up with. And so a lot of times, what we teach to our kids is because it's how we've been brought up, who we keep around us, until we acknowledge that, how we think is wrong and is messing up ourselves and ultimately is messing up our kids, we're not going to change our circle. We're not going to change what we're reading, what we're listening to, who we're listening to, how long we're giving energy to, to certain people. For kids that are still, looking for the perfect father and the perfect mom, I'll say in short, you'll never find it. There's no perfect human being, and it's natural for you to long for something better. I think we all do, regardless if it's a parent-child relationship, we always long for something better. It's always still good to have mentors, in your life. I know organizations like Community and Schools, they have mentors that help out, with kids, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, programs like that. Different school districts have their own district formulated, mentoring program, so it's always good. It's fine to have mentors. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not crazy, if you have mentors. I think us as adults, we all need mentors. I have several mentors in my career, and so, get a mentor, get more than one mentor, because sometimes one mentor can mentor you about everything in life.
That's correct.
Maybe you just need a mentor to help you out with, if you're interested in sports, just you have a sports mentor. If you're into entertainment and fine arts, have that. If it's something on just like being a man, you find a mentor for that. If it's something with spirituality, you find a mentor for that. They don't have to be all. Because the truth of the matter is, sometimes you're just not going to find that.
Right.
So, but what it does, it helps to it stresses the importance of community. And the Black community, seeing that that there's power in our community.
Yeah, a lot.
There's there's allies. There is help for us. And we don't have to we don't always have to go far for it. A lot of times the help that we need is closer than we think.
You just need to want it.
You have to want it. You have to acknowledge that you need it.
Yeah.
That's a mental health issue too. Just making up in your mind that you need help. You're not. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. You're not crazy. It's just part of development.
Right.
Just part of just human development.
Right.
Finding the people, finding the human resources, to help you to get what you need in this life and what you want in this life.
True. Steve, what recommendations would you give to other kids in that current situation in order to overcome whatever it is that they might be going through in their journey?
Let's see. Reach out to your parents. Don't shut them out. I guess reach out to your parents. Seek things that entertain you and keep you occupied. like sports for me. And then I got a dog who's still alive. He's turning 9 this year. He was one of those for me too.
Awesome.
So make sure to keep in touch with your parents. Make sure to seek out hobbies, and make sure to stay away from bad influences.
Right.
Because I've had to stay away from bad people, and it was tough because I really did like them too.
Yeah.
But you have to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
So I think those are the top 3 for me.
I know that to be true. I met him at the gym, and I watched him. I was like, oh, he can hang out with my son. He is so good. I was like, Sean, go hang out with him.
And
but he stayed playing basketball too.
yeah, and I like what you said as far as like, you know, finding hobbies, and you know, and being able to separate yourself from people that you no longer need to be around. And that's why sometimes having those mentors, having that relationship with those mentors will help you to realize that the people that I'm hanging around with aren't the right people that I need to be around with.
It makes
you
you
know?
stand out so much more.
Yeah, you know, they really help you to kind of give you a better scope, you know, and guide and clarity, you know, kind of thing. Because otherwise, you know, just as a kid, you think everything's good. It's all good, and it's not. You know, you don't.
It's entertaining,
Right.
or it's fun,
Right,
or something like that.
right. But you'll find out that it's not all good when the stuff hit the fan.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And it's too late at that point.
Yeah.
You, gotta
You
learn
want-
your lessons.
You want to stay around the people that give you the best life results in the end.
The
Do
best.
you have anything you want to share with people in terms of just overcoming all this whole, you know, challenges?
That subject right there.
For me, I thought, you know how they say you choose your parents when you come into this lifetime, right? So I thought to myself, well, if you choose your parents when you come into this lifetime, while you're in this lifetime, you get to choose parents again, right? And I absolutely love YouTube because, you know, I have both my parents now, but sometimes I already know them, so I kind of know what response I would get when I need to talk to them about certain things. So Oprah and Les Brown is my virtual parents. So I'll be like, Les Brown, talk to me, Daddy. What you got to say about this? But it's funny because I get what I need.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when I need that motherly part that I know my mom is going to be like, well, what about this? And what about this? I'm like, Oprah, Mama, what you got to say? And she's like, believe people for who they are and all that stuff. So it's like you don't literally have to be your circumstance anymore.
Yeah.
If you really, really want a different way, we learn through interaction of others.
Yep.
So YouTube is that. Like if you want to go for a counselor or a mentor, the only difference between being front and front
Right.
is reading a book or listening to their audio. But
Yeah.
the perspective is exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's just not one-on-one, but
Yeah.
you're still going to get what you need.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's no real excuse. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
I totally agree with you what you said as far as like, you know, being able to choose your parents, because I remember when I was like 16 and I had just moved down here from Jersey, so I was just straight Jersey bred, not bred, but just Jersey strong. I was ready to leave or whatever, but I still had it in my mind that I knew what I needed in this life, where I was as a 16-year-old, you know, and 17-year-old. And so at the church that I was attending at the time, there was a married couple there. And after, I guess, a certain amount of time had passed of me getting to know them, I was like, y'all my godparents, you know, and they was like, what? I was like, yeah, my godparents,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it was, of course, it was different for them to hear that, because typically parents choose who their child's
Right.
godparents are,
Right.
you know, just in
Right.
case something happens, you know, to them and they need them, you know, to care for them or whatever, you know, kind of thing. And I had actually already had an actual godmother that my parents had already chosen when I was much younger. Never had a godfather chosen, you know, for me. But I was like, based on what I know that I needed at that moment spiritually, I was like, y'all my godparents, you know. And I'm 37 years old right now, you know, and to this day, I still call them my godparents. They have accepted it, you know, and at this
Yes,
point,
it
like
is.
when I'm around them or if we're around with other people, you know, they'll say, you know, this is our godson or whatever, you know, kind of thing. So it just is what it is, you know.
Right.
So I like that because it tells kids that you have the power to choose. You know, as you say, you don't have to be your circumstance, you know, and you can you can suit your needs, you know, and tailor it to your liking, or tailor it to what you just, like you said, to what you really need, you know.
Yeah.
And in the end, you know, you walk around this body 24/7. You know what you need best, more than anybody else.
Right.
Your parents can say that they know what you need, you know, after a certain point, you know. But then when you get to the age where you don't share everything with your parent,
You know what's going on.
then
Right.
at that point, you know, only you know best, you
Right,
know.
right.
So that's why, like what you said, as far as like, you know, reach out to your parents. Like that stems from knowing what you need. You know, reach out to your parents. You know, if you're mad at them about something, like reach out to your parents. You know. Tell them what you're mad about. You know, I remember that as a teenager. You know, I was mad with my dad about something. You know, and I reached. You know, and I just sat down with him. I was like, "Listen, I'm mad at you about this, that, and the other." You know, over the years. You know what I'm saying? And you know, we hashed it out. You know what I'm saying? I forgave him. You know, and so from then, like our relationship has been great. You know, and so like you gotta like I said, you have. It gets to a point where, as a child, you have to kind of get away from those childish ways of always expecting the parents to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like it gets to that point where you're like, okay, this is no longer about you're not in the playpen anymore.
Yeah.
Like
You gotta take responsibility.
you gotta
at
take
some
responsibility.
point.
It's time to climb out.
Yeah.
It's time to climb out. You know.
Yeah. And journaling is super good too. Even for adults, just journal writing is good. It's just a form of outlet, right? Whether you paint, like he said, basketball was his outlet, whatever it is, but emotions are real, feelings are real,
Right.
situations are real. It basically, we want to just put light on how to cope and overcome those situations,
Right.
you know, and because it can happen. It can happen ultimately. So, did you want to talk about your topic? now?
Yes,
Collectively?
I could interject.
Yeah.
It's not an interjection. We just it's blending
It's
all
taken
together.
off.
No, you good. You good. To that topic that you just mentioned, you were just touching a subject right there about I have so much stuff in my head. Demetrius has touched a lot of stuff in a shot. Listen, Demetrius is it. Okay? Let me tell you guys.
Comma.
Hold on before I forget my thought.
Okay.
When it comes to matters of the mind and matters of women interjecting in mind, so I have to bring in the women's perspective on it. We have this masculine energy right here. We're gonna utilize it today. So I just wanted to say, when it comes to that mental part of it, it is very important. And I had a saying in my head just now when you said something, Demetrius. I was thinking to myself, unresolved animosity with your family, especially your parents,
Yes.
doesn't promote self-healing.
Yeah. Very true.
I wasn't raised by my parents, and I'm a product of parents that struggled with mental health and abuse. I've been redeemed from it. I am a living testimony
All right.
of it.
Amen.
Let's just say my father came from one of the worst states that was rampant with drugs. Drugs, rebellion, and family abuse. Everybody trying to get what they need to get and survive in the hood. Okay? With that being said, this is Mental Health Month. I am a person that work with mental health, special needs, and stuff in those areas. I have clients that I had to get to learn their personalities and get to know what helps them promote self-independence, what helps them to flourish their personality into the world, into the community, and all that stuff. And I have grown a love for that, of such matters of the heart, getting the family involved, to get them involved in the community, be more active, especially with COVID. It's been difficult for the those with mental health issues or special needs to come out and have that support system. So now
I feel like it might have increased too, with a lot of people who had to stay by themselves for that duration.
Yes, and I had so much going. I wasn't going to one of my clients. I'm still concerned. I'm like, I need to give her a spa day or something, because I know being in the house all day, her family has to go to work and work 2 jobs, and it might be just her, him, or whoever it is, with one person being around in the household. And so it's very important that we support each other in these times. It's very important that we uphold each other and hold each other accountable for whatever situations we may be going in. And that comes with that being said, what I'm going to interject here. I'm going to get Steve in here. I'm going to get Steve here. We're pulling opinions from a young perspective, from being not no more a minor, a grown man now. You're 21. What is your example of a person when it comes to parenting and doing what an ideal parent, doing what the child needs, in that retrospect, when you were touching about parenting and being the example? What is your opinion on that? Because with special needs individuals, they have a mind of a child. Anybody that doesn't have the full development or a child, they have a mind of a child. So with that in that case, what is your example of a person that caters to a child's needs and loving and kind and caring? What is your, from what you said, you being having examples of parents and you being positive and active? You sound like a charming, good young man to be example to other young men as well. So
you asking me like who?
What is your example of a parent that try to cater to the child? No matter if they're single parent or what. What is your feel on that?
Well, I guess my mother.
Okay.
She was like that, especially because my father wasn't there. She made sure to be much more active.
Okay.
Even when I, like you guys said, not sharing everything with your parents.
Okay.
She always did make sure to keep in contact with me.
Okay. Well, that sounds like me, because anytime a child going through something, I tell her, well, don't follow me. And she is a tender age. I said, do not follow me. And back to what you were saying, Demetrius, about the fathers talking to their kids and trying to get the kids involved in a two-way conversation that shouldn't be interjected on the child. I feel as if, that brings the child into like a drama situation when the child has to respond. And one time that happened to me, I was like, no, you ain't. No, you're not going to bring her into a conversation that you need to speak to me about. Well, mommy, he wants you back.
Oh, yeah.
I've been dealing with that for a long time. Okay, from the time she was born, like up to the...
Have you tried to play matchmaker with your parents?
No.
I know my son tried that once, and I was like, let this be the last. Answer that question. Hello? And he tried it several times. I just want to know. Yeah. So I can see that happening. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's natural for a child to want to see their parents together, but if they can't get their parents back together or together, just to see them talking to each other, being able to communicate, being able to joke around, kind of thing. But as when you're saying as far as like having the child, like in the middle of the conversation, something that I know to be true is that the more that you involve the child in adult conversations,
yes,
subconsciously what ends up happening is that child thinks that they're now an adult.
It's true.
That's my daughter.
Yep.
That's my daughter. I have
the same way.
What?
He was like, the kids want this, and I'm like, so you're not part of that match?
Right.
Like, how did you get that?
yeah. So and so that it's a very dangerous area, you know, because what ends up happening is that child who's now thinking like an adult, acting like an adult, talking like an adult. They forget their position, their role. You know what I'm saying? And then when they start talking to you all kind of ways, you know.
And they lost their innocence at that point.
They lost their
innocence.
innocence.
Never get it back.
Right. They miss those childhood moments that they could have had mentally. Yeah. You know, because now it's just adult mindset. You know, I read like according to like psychology, like. For kids who are like firstborns, either they're firstborn because they were the first one to be born, or they're like the first boy or the first girl. Like they're automatically first. They have a firstborn mindset, you know. So with them having a firstborn mindset, since they are their child, since they are the parents first, the parents really pretty much treat them like guinea pigs because the parents don't know what they're doing. You know, they're just learning by trial and fire.
Right,
you know,
right.
literally. Whatever. So, you know, they're trying to figure it out too, you know, as a result of that, you know, when they have this only child, they take their child with them everywhere. So even if they're little, you know, this child is listening to adult conversations that their parents are having with their adult friends, you know, and even though the child may be just sitting there at a chair playing video games or playing with a toy, they're listeing to those phrases, those expressions, all that. That's why you got that. You know, y'all saw that one. It was I think on Instagram with that little girl talking about listen, Linda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, Linda.
That little girl. The reason why she was able to say it like that because she's been around. She has been around adults a lot and not around kids, or the parents have not been separating that child from those from being in the earshot of those adult conversations.
And babysitting. I've been babysitting my little brother since 11, and you can't tell me nothing, right? I don't feel like I had a childhood at all because it was like pick up your brothers, cook dinner, clean the house. Yeah. I don't know. Because, I mean, my family's from Jamaica, so that was just the same. Well, did you have that too?
Well, I was the only child, so I was brought into a situation where I wasn't raised by my parents because of their condition.
Gotcha.
But I was spoiled.
Okay.
I was, yes, there are situations where the older child, because I'm cross-cultured. I know multiple cultures. So, yes, the older sibling has to help take care of the parents. If you have 11 kids, like in the Caribbean, 13, back to 60 years ago, you had like 6, 9, 11 children. Those first 4, whoever is home or whoever, some of them will go college. Whoever is the oldest in the child, whether if they're the 15-year-old, they have to deal with all the other little ones. Right. That's wrong. If mama have something and then one parent, you gotta assist to cook. You gotta clean. You gotta go out and help build something. It wasn't back in the day. It wasn't all these toys. And so in that culture, in the Caribbean region culture, you wasn't all of this internet and social media and all of the things that we will eventually touch about all of this bullying and social media influence. You better get out of here with that crap.
Go read a book.
Right.
Go read a book and educate the mind, because one of the things stigma that we have in the Black community is put something in the book, and that the black child or that individual will not know what's going on because you put it in the book.
You want to hide something, put it in the book.
Put it in the book. Put it in the book. So in that culture, those like you said, those older children mightn't have a childhood because they had to go ahead and take care of the child. Just like when you come in a single mom and a child, the woman have a child early, like she's 15, between 15 and 18. She have to stop what she's doing to go ahead and take care of her child. And maybe she's still in school and the parents or whatever's going on, she has to go ahead and get her schoolwork done, be a parent. It's super difficult. Yeah. And then with that being said, then you have the factor of, you have to force yourself. You can't enjoy your childhood. You're missing prom, and now you have depression
Right.
because you can experience life as it should have been.
Right, and the COVID whole pandemic, it has I'm gonna use the word enhanced our families in which kids are raising kids, because
Yeah.
a lot of employers have not been providing digital options, work from home, options.
Yes.
So parents have had no choice but to leave their kids home
Yes.
with their other kids, and then they're still learning digitally from their school, and then they're having to pause their Zoom call because I got to go take care of my little sister or my little brother or feed them, this, that, and the other. But the reason why I say it enhanced because prior to the pandemic, we've still been having that issue of kids raising kids.
And I think if we change the dynamics of okay, you have a kid, you better have a job to take care of that kid, or you're no longer going to party, and just letting kids know it's more than just paying for the kid and getting them dressed and losing the party, because some people is homebodies and don't care about that stuff. But helping them understand that to have a kid, you're responsible for training that child's mind.
That mind.
Are you ready for that?
Right. Because it can
Is
be
your mind even ready for,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So if we just help them understand, like, listen, yeah, you may think you've grown, but are you honestly ready to prepare another individual's mind for the world?
Yeah. I've heard somebody say that, I've heard a leadership expert say this, that growing older is mandatory, but growing up is optional, and depending on which one that you force to happen first.
Yes,
Right.
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 And so with these kids that are raising kids prior to the pandemic, one of the big reasons that happens is because really just lack of education, and I'll say lack of education of the parents, as far as how much education that they have, gotten, so you have parents who unfortunately they have dropped out, because maybe they had a child early, or, the family dynamics, was like, hey, you gotta come work, kind of thing, depending on what community that you're part of. But then you have some that, they have graduated from high school, but then they didn't go to college. And I'm not saying college is for everybody, because it's not, especially the way the cost of tuition and fees is right now. It is not for everyone, But I will say this, but higher education is for everyone, And what I mean by higher education is you need to learn a trade, find something that you enjoy, you know what I'm saying, that's going to pay the rent, god-awful thing that was created. Yeah. So.
But first, before all of that, I do feel like spirituality is important. Without that, it's the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
You can be educated for this trade and this trade and this trade, but if you don't have knowledge of self, and have that deep root connection with the Most High, that's really going to guide you through it all. You're going to feel overwhelmed with anything that you do, right? Especially, we both, men and female, have a responsibility. But as a man, your first leadership is to the Most High. For women, your first submission or commitment to anything is to the Most High. Because if you can't be committed there first, you can't be committed to nothing else, right?
Very true.
And once you have that foundation, then you really understand, okay, I might not need to lay down with that person because he don't have that guidance properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once we fix that part,
get
first,
that alignment right,
then we can make better choices on our partners.
Yeah.
So that when we do realize, because once you're spiritually in tune and the man is spiritually in tune, you'll understand, okay, are we both following that same purpose in life? Because even if we disagree, at the end of the day, we know we both have a purpose to fulfill.
Right.
So we'll come back together.
Right.
And then go ahead, and now you can fill the earth and subdue it and have kids and all that stuff. But in our culture, it's more like, yo, you want to meet up for some drinks?
Yeah.
Then alcohol, spirits kick in. Now you are going down this route, and then you wake up. Life happens and grows you up. Have these kids, and now it's like, I don't really like you like that for real. You know, damn, you was just it was infatuation at
Yep.
that point. This is really not love; it's lust.
Lust.
And now I have to deal with you for the next forever. You know, and then you see it in the child, and it's like, ugh. And some people don't know how to separate that. They love the child, but if they see the father or the mother in the child, then there's like this hidden resentment.
Yeah.
Which affects the treatment overall, and now the child is being so. We need to go wash it all up. Stop. Get that spiritually in tune first. Repair self before we start trying to match up with anybody.
Hold on. I need the next 10 minutes for that subject. Lord, y'all touch it everything. Like, hold on. This goes back to our roots. Wait, the sister's talking right now.
Okay.
All right,
sister.
Queen. Eye to eye contact.
Okay.
Listen, we need a whole show on that.
See us next Sunday.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
What's the topic gonna be?
Am I gonna be here? Because I need to interject. Okay.
Whoever want to come.
Hold
What's the
on.
topic?
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. We won't get to that. Hold on. Woo, she does touch something there. So, if y'all didn't know, me and her, we have shared similar experiences. Okay, everybody gonna know that for the record. So it goes back to the roots. I have you have an Instagram mentor, but they never met you. So my Instagram, I'm not gonna get to MJ, but we're gonna leave that one alone. So one of my mentors, he is. If we go back to history, I'm probably not gonna touch that one too much. I don't want girls to off track. But if you in tune with your original self, the original spiritual people, because we are the first black. For the record, we are for the first people. And if you get in tune with your inner self to see that we are in tune with each other to the point where if you get to know if you're compatible with that person, there are ancient things from way back in the day that they have hidden from black people for us to get to know ourselves. Like if a person is born a certain day personality and they were raised a certain way, you and them will never get along or stay together because you and them are not a match. And this gentleman, his name is Ali. I'm not going to start his name, but we're going to say Ali. He touches on that, how to have that chemistry, how to know how you shouldn't even get connected to the person. After the second date, you and the person is not going to stay together. It should have never happened. So this is the subject matter that you just touched there that I was thinking about. Then you start thinking about how much mistakes that you have done made. But back to that whole cultural thing, in the Caribbean, I was growing up to the point where I wasn't taught how to know how to communicate with a boy after I came out of school. I wasn't taught how to the birds and the bees, like, just don't go do that. What kind of
it was never a
what
topic. not even in my grade. What?
What kind of learning experience am I supposed to get? You just don't do that because you go end up in a situation, you're not married. That doesn't help the typical person. And me growing up in a Christianity, that's a whole nother subject we talk about, is that you don't do it. It's a sin. Okay? Don't do it as a sin, but you're not teaching the child how to prevent herself from getting in compromising situations, because everybody know how this thing start. You start, we call it feel up. You start feeling up. You laughing. You start feeling them up at 9. I start thinking about my daughter now.
Right.
Woo.
Right.
So me and her father have these, I'm gonna just say, promiscuous traits, you know, and he has it, I have it. I'm just like, woo. So I had to block that and get her fine-tuned, because at 3 years old, she's in the classroom holding a boy's hand and playing with his hair. She's playing with his hair and holding his hand. And I said, well, what do you and the father be doing? You know, they're very blunt back in the Caribbean. What are you and the father doing in front? Excuse me? We need to talk in the office, ma'am. You come and speak to me. That's not how you want to speak to me. Because nothing I do, because I know my child was fast from the beginning. And my family would be like, your child is fast. To the point you were speaking about your child being grown and whatever. I said, that's not happening here. You're not going to be the product of what my family was struggling with. And some of these things are generational. Some of these things are generational. and we have to be the ones to
But
get.
I think in our culture, we just fast. Period. Our dance is fast. Like it's just very high in sexual behavior. Period. So we just need to teach them, like, hey, if you're gonna cross that bridge, it come with a hell of a lot of responsibilities, and I'm gonna be so straight and forward with you because life is not gonna give you no breaks.
Yeah.
It's not no commercials. So
Yeah.
this is what you're facing. I understand you have these emotions. You're human, and I'm glad you're having them. But when you act on it, this is what you're gonna experience. This is what you need to look out for. Because back in the days, I swear, I wish that communication level was there instead of just saying don't do it. Because when you think about having a child with a guy, that's the child is the DNA of the daddy,
Okay.
you know, and it's so important to understand that DNA because this is your legacy,
Okay.
right? So if he has gambling issues or he has sickle cell or he has whatever, this is something that you forever gonna be managing. And you know, we are saying we come from kings and queens. So if we come from kings and queens and just following that whole storyline,
Yeah.
then the woman kind of was saved for another king, right? You wasn't playing around and this and that because that king, they studied his whole life. He was bred to be a king. He did X, Y, Z because now your child is carrying his name. We lost that part of fine tuning. It's all about how he make me feel. Oh, he look good, what he got, and none of that shit matters for real.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
you know. So we really have to have that pride and say, listen, if you're gonna go ahead and have a kid, make sure he bout something. If you're gonna have a kid, make sure she bout something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she's responsible for training that child's mind.
Yeah.
And if all she care about is bags and whatever the case may be, then you know the product that you're about to have. Is that what
Exactly.
you're ready for?
At the tender age, in my child prime years, I already told her, do not make the mistakes you see me and my father done. Do not make the mistake that you see that his father done, your grandfather. And it's a repetitive thing. And
But you got to add the why to it. Because
Yeah, of course.
anytime, like me, you tell me no, I'm definitely going to get a yes.
And that's why.
It's something about a no. I'm like, oh, yeah? Watch me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But if you explain to me why and break it down, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Because for me, I feel like you made the choice for me already by telling me don't do it.
Yeah.
You didn't even consider what I might be thinking. Maybe I didn't even care to do it. But because you told me not to do it, I'm like, yeah, why?
Yeah.
Okay.
like when
Yeah.
More
I have
curious
friends,
at that point.
I have friends that's 10 years older than me, and I've met them like in my adult time, like after high school, and she would tell you right now that this young lady, I told her to not go down that road multiple times. I've been there. And I will still go down that road because I want to experience it. As the saying back home, she's bagged up. She was home, sitting down being church girl, and now she doesn't know how to relate or experience. So she's trying to experience that thing for herself. So I didn't have nobody to talk to me. I grew up with old people, as they would say, old people.
Yeah.
And so they would not talk to me. And there was experienced man problems that they could have explained to me. But I didn't know how to relate. The man cheating, the man having, back that been going on. The man have the children, the household, the 10 kids, and he out there doing little side stuff and coming home.
That's a topic, polygamy.
And that's I say so. We've heard the phrase "we're a product of our environment." That's why it's very important that if the child's parents aren't together, you know, whoever they decide to date, that you have to be very careful about how and when you introduce your child to the person that you're dating. You know, the how is important and the when is important.
That's right.
You know, because children are going to adopt subconsciously. You know, if there's nothing contrary being told to them, they're going to adopt your dating habits from you.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So, you know,
or resentment, like Steve said, like I don't want to hear nothing from you.
Yeah.
You know,
because if you like, if you know, and I'm just saying this situation. If you're a mother, you know, and you have a daughter, you know, and you're dating, you know, you're dating guys, you know, and so you're bringing home a different guy every week or every month, you know, the child is subconsciously seeing that and thinking that it's okay. Why do they think that it's okay? Because children see parents as perfect.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them.
Right.
You know, so everything is right. So everything that they do, it must be right. It must be gold.
Right.
You know, it must be the standard.
And that shows no
you know?
sign of loyalty,
Right.
of commitment,
Right.
Yeah.
and none
You
of
know?
that. It's just like, all right, come on.
Yeah, and the same,
tic
and
tac.
yeah, in the same sense, like if you're a father, you know, and you know, if you're bringing home a different girl, you know, every week or whatever, you know, it's the same. It's the same thing. It shows that that it's okay not to be committed, you know, and so you have to. So, but when you do, if you do end up dating somebody, one person, right, you know, it's very important not to rush in introducing that person to your child, you know, because once again, the child is a piece of you,
Yes, sir.
you know, and so you know it should be the mindset that if you know, in order for the person that you're dating, in order for them to accept you, they have to accept your child 100%. Yes, you know. That should be the mindset. But as far as like when you introduce them, now this is what I think. Not everybody does this, okay? But I think that you should wait at least 6 months before you introduce whoever you're dating to your child. You know, and the reason why I say that is because, and I've actually had this conversation, you know, with my son, you know, because he was asking me about dating, you know, because he was like, he was like, Daddy, are you dating somebody? You know, I said, first of all, I said, if and when I'm dating somebody, I said, you're not going to see them for a while, you know. And he was like, what's a while? And I was like, a while, you know, probably like 6 months. And he was like, why that long? I said, because I need to know that they have staying power.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's powerful coming from a woman perspective. Steve, you have anything else before we close out when it comes to the adult perspective, when it comes to these last subjects we were talking about in general? Anything comes to mind that you want to say to the young adults of Atlanta?
ATL.
The example, you know, the influences or anything that they should take with them, you know, on the life journey that we're going through right now?
I guess one thing I can say is, if it doesn't feel right, sit it out.
Period.
I like that.
We want to take that
Strong
point.
and simple.
Woo.
Yes.
And that's perfect. So there you have it. I thank you all for joining. It was a great conversation. And again, we'll be back here again next Sunday with another topic. And if you want to join, please be free to come in and join the next topic.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Thank you, ATL, for listening.
I think the guys was the influence and we were just the response. I love it. So next week we talking about us and getting us right when it comes to us responding to, you know, the world and how they see us, I think. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's open, but I think I would love to, like, if you guys want to return, I think it would be great to just touch on another topic and get the male's perspective and the female's perspective so that we can really get a round version and just be like parents to our listeners, right? And be that example instead of saying, well, you should do this and you should do that. We can actually be that example by our discussion.
Right.
And just showing them how a conversation can be done, even if there is differences in opinion.
Right. I like that.
Yep. So thank you so much. And we are out of here.
All right.
Bye. See you guys Sunday.
Later.
Be here, be square.
Bye, ATL.
That was awesome.
Oh, Lord.